We're live. Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron Knoll, and welcome to today's episode of the Fan Movie Fights. This is the first InterNERDom match between Evan DeGraff and Henry Sanchez. Like I said, my name is Aaron Knoll. I'm currently filling in for Chris's host, who is unavailable for today. Short on time, we're just going to go ahead and get straight into the intros, into the match. So, introducing first, I believe it's his first match in the league, Henry Sanchez.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is confirmed. It is my first match, and I am a writer, so now it's nice to get on camera and see if I got what it takes.
Right, and the second fighter played a match against Matt Beer in which he lost. Look on his face. Going up against Henry is Evan DeGraff.
One more label try to stop me, it's gonna be some dreadhead niggas in
I heard that song on the internet one time. Might have put it on a Spotify.
And we back. We have a good judge here, and I'm excited to fight.
You might get in trouble, Evan.
All right. All right, guys. So, again, like I said, we're kind of short on time, so we're going to go ahead and get into this. So this is the InterNERDom match. These are all questions that relate to generally recognized nerdy things. We have 4 questions that we're going to do battle with, and then we're going to go into the speed round. And today is going to be a little bit of a special match because we have some surprises along the way that the fighters don't know about. So it's going to be interesting to see how they react when these things come up. God. Yeah, I pre-planned stuff ahead of time, guys, so it's going to be a little fun. All right,
Thumbs
so
up. Let's do this.
Getting right into this. The first match is going to be, obviously right now, cinematic universes are the big thing. The two arguably biggest of them, the MCU, is extremely successful. The DCEU is trying to pick itself up off the ground. And with Wonder Woman coming out this weekend, looking like it has the possibility to do that, we decided to ask the question. One thing nerds love to do is fan cast. So, any character in the MCEU or the DCEU with a new actor that is currently not involved in that universe. Now, to clarify on the question, take an actor that is in the DCEU and put them in a different role or vice versa. But, for example, if you wanted to pull Robert Downey Jr. and put him as Batman, that would be okay. If you wanted to pull Henry Cavill and put him as Captain America, that would be okay. Or if you wanted to pull Ryan Reynolds and make him Green Lantern again, God knows why you do that to the poor guy. You could also do that if you wanted to.
Don't make the suit animated.
None of our fighters picked those 2 fights, so we're going to go ahead and And just so you know, you guys can give your intro. The way I'm going to run this is you guys can give your intros, then we're going to keep the fights themselves to about 6 closing thoughts.
Rebuttalments.
All right, so go ahead, Evan. Give your opening statements.
All right, here's the thing, all right? The thing with this comic book movie casting is it's usually pretty solid most of the time. It's actually really good. I mean, it's not often where we get bad roles and actors in bad roles with good actors and things like that. But a point in instance where many fans will agree with me here is Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. What a horrible decision that was made. It's like he was like, someone who can make that better, a lot better actually, is Ryan Gosling. Let me tell you why. Ryan Gosling is an actor with many varieties. He can play many types of characters. Who has a very scope of acting wise. He hasn't even been in a franchise yet. And I think introducing him here would be the perfect opportunity for him to prove why he deserves to be in the cinematic universe. And I think Lex Luthor is the perfect character for him because he knows how to play that straight-faced character. He can be very, very deadly looking. Not deadly per se, but very what's the word I'm looking for? Mean, I guess. There's a better word than mean, but you guys know what I'm saying. You know, I feel like Ryan Gosling can be able to find that perfect balance between crazy and mean, and find that how to do it. Yeah, Ryan Gosling, Lex Luthor. Bye.
And then Henry, go ahead and give your intro.
Alrighty, so also I chose a DC movie, and it is similar to the Jesse Eisenberg character as Lex Luthor, where it's controversial, 50-50, maybe not so much, maybe more like 70-30 negative. And mine is Jared Leto's Joker. And I decided that I'm going to take a more serious approach to it while still having the ability to go over the top when needed. So I chose Colin Farrell because I feel that he has the ability, acting wise, he has the chops to just deliver a perfect performance, both cynically, seriously, over the top, comedically. He has all the abilities that we need for that part. And then also he has some movies that his background that we can prove that he can take that approach. Plus he has more, I don't know, he's more stronger as far as acting, whereas Jared Leto, he's more over the top. Like I wouldn't imagine that Colin Farrell is sending condoms and dead rats to his people and still give what we got. Whereas if he actually would have been really good and did that weird stuff, it would have been respectable. But he wasn't. He was average at best, even for the people that really liked Suicide Squad and really liked his performance. They still were never like, oh, it's topping Heath Ledger. Like no one even would mention that. Whereas if Colin Farrell stepped in, I'm not saying he would have been better, but he definitely would have it would have been more on that level of seriousness and respectable, where Jared Leto's Joker is not respectable. So we could have definitely went in an approach that's more serious, and I think that would have been better off.
All right, so before we start the fight, just to recap, we're going to be, Evan is arguing for replacing Jesse Eisenberg with Ryan Gosling in the Lex Luthor role. Henry's arguing that we replace And Henry is arguing that we're replacing Jared Leto with Colin Farrell in the Joker role. And I feel like in the year of 2017, I must clarify, no, we are not on Marvel's payroll. You guys have 6 minutes.
I wish we were on somebody's payroll.
Yeah, I would admit it. I wouldn't even care. Sign me up.
Check. All right, guys. You guys have 6 minutes to go at it. Convince me why your role should be recast more than the other, and go.
All right. Well,
first. Ladies first.
All right. Well, first, like I said, people didn't even respect Jared Leto's Joker, and especially coming off of Heath Ledger's Joker, there was a high pedestal that you need to come against. So instantly, that's why we need to replace it and just redo that. And then I feel like Colin Farrell could definitely do it with his most recent role in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. He was, without giving away any spoilers, he was definitely creepy and menacing, and he seemed like there was something about him that just wasn't right. And the way he talked to Ezra Miller's character, you could just tell he was talking down to him, but he was also convincing, and you can just tell that he was calculating some evil formula, even if it was kind of like a good cop, bad cop, like, oh, he's doing this or he's doing that. You didn't really know what he was doing. And I think that was very important. Like with the Joker, he's menacing. And if you're going to have somebody convince Harley Quinn to break them out of Arkham Asylum, you need someone that's very convincing instead of just, oh, I'm just a pretty boy. And there's way more to the character than that. And even if they went the same exact route as they did, Colin Farrell would be able to pull off a gangster better off than Jared Leto did, because Jared Leto looks like a gangster that somehow his dad was the leader and then he died and he just took over, and he just is able to just do whatever he wants just because of the name, not because he actually earned it. With Colin Farrell, he would have that presence where it's like, oh, he earned that. And if you've ever seen True Detective, just one scene alone when he went into a kid's house that was bullying his son, and he not only beat up the dad, but he looked into the kid, and he was willing to beat up a little kid just because that's just how he was, and that's protecting his son. So imagine how he would have been as the Joker, doing anything he could to protect Harley Quinn.
Okay. Before I get into why Ryan Gosling is the perfect choice, I just want to discuss some things real quick. Over the top, the Joker, it had to be different no matter what. No matter what kind of general scheme of things, it had to be different than Heath Ledger's or even Jack Nicholson's Joker, or even Mark Hamill's, for that matter of fact. Because you're coming into a role where a guy won an Oscar for it. You're coming into a role where the last guy won an Oscar for that role. So it's uber difficult to be able to replicate that and make it even better, per se. I think what Jared Leto did was he was able to make it different, and he was able to sell the relationship between him and Harley Quinn, which is uber important in that movie. That's the highlight of that movie for a lot of people, is the facts that Harley Quinn and the Joker's relationship works. That's what people really enjoyed about it. And I think it was respectable. He did his job. He went in. Of course, he did that crazy stuff, but that's not the role of the movie. You have to take that out once he actually enters and does the movie. It was respectable enough for what he was doing. I think it works pretty well, in my opinion. Now, Ryan Gosling as Lex Luthor. Here's the thing. This guy is a fantastic actor. If you see him in a plethora of roles, La La Land, to The Big Short, and just to any Ryan Gosling movie, he can play so many different type of characters. So in my right mind, knowing that he's a fantastic actor on its own, he can go in and perform really well playing as Lex Luthor, because he can act in any single role.
Well, I'll argue that instantly, and I have an example that would help you that I can knock down, but until you bring up this movie, I'm not even going to talk about it. But every Ryan Gosling performance that he does, it's pretty much the same character. You never look at a Ryan Gosling character and it's like, oh, that's this character. You're always like, oh, that's Ryan Gosling. He doesn't transform, except for maybe one, but I'll wait for you to bring that up if you do. But if you watch every movie that he's in, he does this motion anytime, the little jump that he twitches, and that's just become like a Ryan Gosling trademark. So I can imagine him as Lex Luthor doing that if he's trying to take it seriously. If he did the Jesse Eisenberg approach of doing this all the time, then why would you even switch out Jesse Eisenberg in the first place?
I don't think you can necessarily say that, because if you look at his past movies, he was nominated for La La Land. Everybody loved him in The Nice Guys. Everybody loved him in The Big Short. And then he also has Drive in what he did, which people love amazingly. And he played a very serious character in Drive, to where that would actually shift the whole character, which is what that character needs, is a shift in character. I think Ryan Gosling would be perfect for that role.
Yeah, but if you look at that, Drive was in 2011. The other three movies that you've mentioned are beyond that, 2004, 2015, 16, and 17. So, or both 2016s and then 2015. So he's actually on the down, and he's starting to just become Ryan Gosling in movies instead of being the driver, which if he would have stayed on that approach and did the Nicholas Winding Refn universe character, then maybe I would have agreed with you. But he looks like he's just becoming Ryan Gosling. Like,
Henry,
I wouldn't even be surprised in Blade Runner if he did one of these jumps and he's more twitchy. Like, you never know. Like, I can't trust it if you're trying to go the serious approach.
That's my thing. I don't think studios would trust him to make him Neil Armstrong and put him in Blade Runner to act against Harrison Ford. I don't think studios, like, if they thought he was going to do his Ryan Gosling thing, and an Academy-nominated actor do his Ryan Gosling thing, I don't think studios would have put him in such important movies like the Neil Armstrong movie that's coming out, or Blade Runner, to act against Harrison Ford, an actor that everybody loves. That's why I think Ryan Gosling has this variety of roles that he can play, and to sink himself into this Lex Luthor role to where he will outperform Henry Cavill as Superman, which he needs to do. That's what Lex Luthor does. They're supposed to outact Superman because they're more interesting of a character per se. That's perfect. It's a perfect lineup of things waiting to happen.
But then also the character that was in BVS is
Henry,
Lex Jr. Go ahead.
Before you get into it, time is up. So these next two statements are going to be your final statements.
Okay.
I think I go first, right? Because I went first last time.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wait,
also,
I went
Evan,
first last time, right?
When you get a chance, fix your camera. Something's up with it.
Okay, I will fix it after I make this last minute. Okay, so just to end it all off, here's my thing. Jared Leto is the Joker, yes. You could say it was divisive by the least, but no matter what, it was going to be divisive. Anybody who played the Joker, it was going to be divisive because they're coming off of an acting role of freaking Heath Ledger, won an award for playing the Joker. You're coming off of that, and he died because of things that followed up with that role and stuff like that. So what Jared Leto did, I enjoyed what he did. He made it different. That's what was important about making that role. And that was people's favorite part about Suicide Squad. That's why that was important. That people enjoyed that in the Harley Quinn relationship. I don't think Colin Farrell could have played off the Harley Quinn like Jared Leto did. And Ryan Gosling as Lex Luthor, look, his last role, he was nominated for an Academy role. His next film is a huge action movie that's coming out, a sci-fi action movie, Blade Runner 2049. I don't see in a world where he can come up against and actually and not perform well as Lex Luthor. I think he's perfect for that role, and I bet you a bunch of other fans would agree with me because a lot of people do not like Jesse Eisenberg in that role.
Okay, and Henry.
All right, so just to knock down Ryan Gosling one more time. Like I said, he's on the downward slope as far as becoming Ryan Gosling in movies instead of becoming the character. So if the writing's the exact same and he's actually playing Lex Jr., which is what Jesse Eisenberg did, then he's either going to pretty much be the same exact character and be all twitchy, or he's just going to totally change the character, and that might not even fill in with the movie properly. Now, with Colin Farrell, if you've seen In Bruges, you've seen that he's a hitman, but he's also likable. You really like that character. There's too much of a spoiler, but something happens in the movie and he wants to kill himself. And as an audience, you're like, oh no, let's not do that because we like him, but he's a hitman. You're not supposed to like a hitman, but he's so likable. So he has that aspect. And the Joker, he's always supposed to be likable, even if he's a villain. So that's very important. And then, like I said, in True Detective, he's shown that he can be menacing and he can in the face and kill you, and he won't even bat an eye, and he'll threaten kids, women, children, adults, superheroes, Batman. He'll go up against anyone. And then Fantastic Beasts, he shows that he can be menacing, and he shows that he can be influential, like he would with Harley, to influence her to break him out of Arkham, and do everything that he needs to do, make her fall in love, have that charm and everything. So he shows that he can have, that's range right there. Whereas Ryan Gosling, yeah, in Drive, he was dark and stuff, but he's on the downward slope, and he probably will just play the same character. So even if he does that in Blade Runner, we don't know for sure. But as of right now, with his last 3 major films, he plays pretty much the same character.
Okay, and that's going to be it for the fight. That was a good fight, a good start to the match. I was caught up, though. Okay, just to put my own opinion out there, I actually, even though I think there were issues with both, I actually enjoyed both of the actors that you're trying to replace in the films. Going into this, I was against both of your recasting choices, so you're pitching me on why it would work. Where Evan's coming from of how you could change the Lex Luthor character within the context of that film and make Ryan Gosling fit. However, listing Ryan Gosling's movies rather than actually if you had pitched me on how you could change the way the character was written and then back that, it would have worked better. Whereas Henry was going to keep the character mostly the same in his film, and he was using Colin Farrell's movies like In Bruges and like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them in order to pitch me on why it would work. And the one that did win it for me was relating the relationship between Colin Farrell and Ezra Miller in the film, where, Colin Farrell is both extremely abusive and extremely caring towards Ezra Miller at different times, and relating that to the Joker-Harley relationship. So with that, I'm going to give Henry the first point in this match.
Fair enough. That
was a really good fight, guys. I think it's setting up for some good things to follow in the rest of this match. So with that,
you made me sweat a little, Evan.
What?
No, those were some really good
sweat a little, Evan. Good job.
It was really good. And Evan, you were close. It was just, I like the idea of changing the character to fit Ryan Gosling. I just needed to know what it is you were going to change him to, and then support that.
Henry, I forgot to bring this up, but how is he on a downward slope? He just got nominated for Academy Award.
No, that's why I specifically said downward slope as becoming Ryan Gosling.
I think what Henry was trying. I think what he was trying to. What he was trying to say was Ryan Gosling's characters are starting to become more and more similar to his real-life personality rather than him actually transforming into a character. Yeah,
I got you.
All right, let's move on. La La Land was similar to other films he's been in.
Yeah.
Like, I think, like even on as far back as Crazy Stupid Love, that was kind of the same relationship, just with more singing.
Alrighty, round 2, let's go.
All right, so going into round 2, this is the InterNERDom match, and what is more nerdier than Lord of the Rings? So we ask a very, very basic question. What is Lord of the Rings character? Now, I'm going to put myself out there as a judge and say this. As sacrilegious as this is, I have not seen a single Lord of the Rings movie films. I've not seen one. I've seen clips of them, back down and watch them. So I can't tell you shit about Lord of the Rings. So the two characters that you guys pitched, you are legitimately going to be pitching me without any bias as to why they are the better character in that franchise. And to start that off, it's going to be Henry. Henry, go ahead and pitch your character. And like it's going to be like the last fight. We're going to have opening arguments. You're going to have 6 minutes of fight time, and then we're going to have closing statements. Go ahead, Henry.
All right, so when I think of the most important character in the Lord of the Rings franchise, I think of someone who not only is in all 3 films, which I feel is very important when you're thinking of a franchise and most important, but I'm also thinking of influential, powerful, and just acting overall. Just when you think of Lord of the Rings, you think of this character, and the character I chose is Gandalf. He is the best Lord of the Rings character because he's the most powerful. He's a wizard. So, I mean, that's already awesome as it is. He, without giving away too many spoilers, he goes from white to gray, or gray to white. You know,
you can spoil the movies, dude. They're like 15 years old.
I don't know. It's a big thing for me. I don't want to spoil. But he goes from gray to white or white to gray, and it's a very important because that's just how badass he is. And also he's funny in the opening scene when you see him coming into to meet Frodo. He's, you know, all the other little hobbits are trying to chase him, and he's showing off the little fireworks and sparks. So he shows that he has flash and he's fun, but he is also very serious with the iconic line, "You shall not pass." He stands up against a big fire dragon monster and everything, and he doesn't even care. Didn't even bat an eye. He do whatever it takes to save his friends or the people following him. He's very unselfish. Ian McKellen performed that role perfectly. You can't think of anyone else, can't even dare think of anyone else who would be Gandalf, and that's because he did it so well and it's so powerful, and Gandalf is the best Lord of the Rings character.
All right, and Evan, go ahead and give your opening statements.
Okay, I feel bad for Aaron because I'm about to switch my answer right now. I didn't mean to do this. Is this allowed?
As long as it's not Gandalf, sure.
All right. Precious. Gollum. Gollum did so many things, not just one for Lord of the Rings, but also the film industry by itself. Andy Serkis revolutionized motion capture with just one character. And everybody knows Precious. If there's one thing, if you've never seen Lord of the Rings, you know Precious. You know Gollum and his weird little hands going for the ring. That's what he wants. And that's what makes him Lord of the Rings. That's what makes him so memorable and so fantastic, because people remember him. I don't know a single person. If you say Precious, people know exactly what you're talking about. They're talking about Gollum from Lord of the Rings. It also changed cinema, because motion capture now became more popular, more accessible because of Gollum and Lord of the Rings. Andy Serkis revolutionized something in the film industry and made it something new and fantastic. And that's why Gollum is probably the best Lord of the Rings character. Yeah.
All right, so I can instantly knock that down. You say Precious is very memorable and remarkable in Lord of the Rings. Yeah, but that's more along the joke lines. If you hear anyone bring up Precious, they're probably making fun of it, or they're being satirical, or they're, you know, calling somebody like a crackhead, or like they're a drug addict and they're looking like Gollum, or they're, you know, so that's it's, if anything, it's become memeable and satirical bringing up Gollum nowadays, and that's disrespectful to Lord of the Rings and fans, because if people think of just Precious as the only thing you think of Lord of the Rings, then that's a joke, because they don't take it seriously. They don't realize, for example, when you think of Forrest Gump, everyone's like, "Run, Forrest, run." It's a joke, because they're not taking the movie as cinema, talking about that as a joke. So you say the same thing with Gollum and Precious, and you don't want to look like him. Yes, Andy Serkis revolutionized motion capture and did all that stuff, and should have been nominated even for that. But that's but that's as an actor. That's just not the character. And even without that, it's not very memorable. When you talk about Gandalf, the gray or the white, doesn't matter which form you use, you take it seriously. He's someone that you want to be your grandfather, or great grandfather. no matter what, any way you would look up to him and anything. You wouldn't even think of him as a joke. And Ian McKellen is also a very important actor. He did Magneto, so he can hold a franchise as well, just like we were talking about with Andy Serkis and the Planet of the Apes and all that stuff. So that they're about the same in that regards. And like I said, Gandalf has never been joked about or satired. So I think that just automatically knocks you down right there.
Whoa,
Just
he's never been
that
joked about or satired. He's never been joked about or satired. Do you know how many times you can go online and just type in Lord of the Rings and you'll see some just little short cartoon of Gandalf the Grey saying, "Thou shalt not pass," and people joke about that all the time. That's cinema. That's just the industry that we live in. That's just how things work. People are gonna make fun of things. But I'm talking about the most memorable. When I first saw the movies when I was 10 years old, guess where I remember coming out of that?
The only time you've seen him.
Freaking Gollum, because I was scared. That Gollum did something where he made it memorable but also accessible to everybody else, where he scared the people, but people really also was influenced and dug the character of Gollum. And that's something very difficult to do. The issue with Gandalf is the matter of fact that he's kind of hard to relate to. And, he's this strong, big physical character that everybody kind of like is like, oh, cool, it's Gandalf, but they can't relate to him in certain ways. People can relate to Gollum though, because Gollum is after something. He's chasing it. People are always chasing it, whether it's your dreams or something like that. Gollum was after the ring. People were just after something else. That's what makes Gollum so relatable and so memorable in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, but you say that they can relate to Gollum, and that's more of a negative aspect. Where for Gandalf, they may not be relate to him physically, but it's something to look up to. It's something to look forward to, strive to become. He's a great influence. He's a great mentor. He's great. He's the reason that Frodo went on his journey. So without Gandalf telling him that he needs to get rid of the ring, the Lord of the Rings trilogy wouldn't have even happened. So he's the jump starter of everything. And yeah, Gollum is a part of the Rings lore, and that without him, it's not important. But the journey itself, the Fellowship of the Ring, which is the very first movie, wouldn't have even started if it wasn't for Gandalf telling Frodo to go on that journey.
Okay, so that's anything in the movie. Without this person, you can't have that happen. When you break it down character by character and what it actually comes down to, Gollum changed Frodo, just as Gandalf did. But people relate to Gollum more. People can see Gollum's struggles and what he goes through. And the impacts that Gollum had in cinema into the future, like I've already mentioned with Andy Serkis. Now, Andy Serkis is known. Do you know how many times people have said Andy Serkis has deserved an Oscar for this and this and this and hasn't gotten it yet? And it's all because he started with Gollum. And everything changed because of this one role and this one character. Without Gollum, we wouldn't have the motion capture that we do today. Without Gollum, cinema wouldn't have changed, but it has now, which is fantastic in so many different ways. And because Gollum was relatable, people actually likes that character. Without his relatability, people wouldn't have liked that character. People wouldn't have been able to remember Precious. People wouldn't be able to remember those things, but Gollum was able to do that.
All right, one last thing. You got me back on you cannot pass me. That's still firm and strong and everything. Like I said, when you joke about the precious, that's making fun of somebody. That's calling them similar to a drug addict, or you're ugly, or you have bad hair, or you're skinny, or anything. So that no matter what, if you have any relatability, whether it's personal or somebody comparing you to Gollum, it's in the negative aspect. Whereas Gandalf, it's strong and powerful and influential. And if you had to choose, I'd rather be like Gandalf than Gollum.
I guess that's why I'm struggling a little bit, because that's cinema. People will make fun of Gandalf too. Thou shalt not pass. Like, I can do that any day and have a good laugh about it. With Gollum, it's a matter of fact of people go through that struggle. That's what people relate to, is him going through that struggle, and that's why that's important, because everybody goes through that type of struggle, chasing something that they're probably never gonna get, and that's what's so fantastical about this Lord of the Rings. There's so many different types of various characters that you can relate to, but the one character you really can't relate to is Gandalf, just because he's so great. He's so big and powerful and mighty. It just doesn't change the facts that he's not relatable, though.
We still going, or we still going on to our closings?
I think we're good.
I'm ready for a closing.
All right, Aaron, we're ready.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
So just go ahead and give go ahead and do final statements because I heard enough of the arguments. Go ahead and do final statements.
All right,
And Henry, we'll start with you.
Yeah, Henry's first.
Okay, so
Are you muted still?
no, we hear you. You have two screens going. One of them's
Awesome.
muted, one of them's good. All right, I lost my train of thought for a second. All right, okay.
You got time.
So like I said, Gollum is, if you think about that, you want to choose two things. Like, hey, do I want to watch a good movie or do I want to watch a bad movie that makes do I want to watch a movie that makes me feel good or do I want to watch a movie that makes me feel bad? 9 out of 10 times you're picking the one that you want to feel good. Even if it's something that it's out of reach, it's too good to be true, you're going to prefer the one that's good. So that's more memorable and that's greater. And if you have two family members, you have your great uncle or your grandpa who's the most influential person in the family, or you have the reject cousin, you're going to always lean toward the great. So Gandalf and Gollum, you're always going to go for the good. Good always beats evil, so Gandalf over Gollum.
Okay, good always beats evil. That's exactly where I'm going to jump off of. People remember the Joker more than Batman and the Dark Knight. People like the Joker more than Batman and the Dark Knight. And so I think that matter of fact, no, it's not necessarily true. People love Darth Vader over Luke. A lot of people think Darth Vader is the best character in the Star Wars trilogy. Good doesn't always be evil when it comes to those kinds of things. The reason why Gollum is so influential and so important, as a matter of fact, look, you go up to your grandpa. There's only so many grandpas that you have, but there's so many other reject cousins that you have and that you can relate to. That's what makes Gollum a better character than Gandalf, is the fact that there are so many more different Gollums in the world. Like, you're a Gollum, I'm a Gollum, Aaron's a Gollum. Everybody is a Gollum because they have something that they chase.
Rude.
They oh my god, they have something that they are chasing, right? And so, like, you're chasing this YouTube thing, I'm chasing this YouTube thing. That is our ring, that is our precious. And it also changed cinema forever with the motion capture. That's why Gollum is better than Gandalf.
All right, so again, another really good, really close fight. And through most of the fight, you guys were back and forth. I think for the most part, the points that you guys brought up, you could hit back and forth. Henry brought up the precious memes. Evan brought up the "you shall not pass" memes. You both talked about the actors outside of their franchise, and I think we can establish that both have done amazing work outside of this franchise and in other franchises. So where it came down to, the big thing that was deciding for me was I thought the way Evan was trying to make the relatability argument at first didn't make a whole lot of sense, and Henry did hit back against that really well, because it's like, yeah, no, Gollum's a weird-ass, creepy dude. You mostly compare him to a drug addict. Why would we all want to aspire to chase that? What is going to help me in deciding to give Evan the point in this round is that his closing argument was really well done. If you look at it from the point of Gollum is just extreme. Gollum is somebody who is chasing their dream. And I think, and all relate to that. Obviously, we're all doing a YouTube video right now. We all want to be doing this. This is our dream. This is what we're chasing at the moment. And I think in a really weird, twisted way, you can relate to Gollum in that. It's just Gollum is that worst possible extreme of what happens when you go overboard on it. And I'm pretty sure the ring has magical powers or some shit that did that to him. Point goes to Evan.
Thank God. I did not think I was going to win this fight.
Dang it.
Hey,
Again,
Henry.
it's really close. It's just
that bitch had me on the
closing argument. It was just the strong closing argument, and sometimes that's all it takes to win a round is if you can just stay in it and then bring it back at the end, that's what it takes.
I would have been able to knock it down
so
too. It's just you went last, so good job. Good timing.
Hey, well, exactly.
So
that's why we switched back and forth.
Yeah, good timing. You were able to plan that out, because I was going to be able to get you, but you were able to get it good and end strong. So good job. You dropped that mic and you were able to do it good.
Guys. All right, so now we go into question number 3. And the thing about sci-fi is and fantasy and all this.
Yeah, man.
We lost you.
Nice. What a show, everybody. How you doing? I'm Evan DeGraff. I'm your host for today. Oh, hey, Aaron.
I'm back.
Okay. And
attention building right there. I dropped out.
Yeah, we went to commercial break. No big deal.
Yeah. Da-da-da-da-da. I'm not loving it.
So sometimes with sci-fi, as we know, sometimes it just doesn't work out. You know, sometimes you think you have something, and it's not just sci-fi. It is with all nerd things. Sometimes you think you have the right idea, you think you know what you're doing, and sometimes it doesn't work out. And you know, something that may not work out for you guys is this next fight, because this is actually a surprise question that neither of you have known about, and you're going to have to prepare for on the spot.
All right.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I'm doing this. So what I have is, I have a little bit to where I was starting to go with it. I just thought I'd announce it earlier because I was running out of things to say. I have picked 6 nerd, quote-unquote, nerd franchises that have a varying degree of success with the fans. They have each randomly been assigned a number 1 through 6. Pick that number 1 through 6, and whichever one you get is what franchise you're stuck with. Now, I'm going to give you guys the option. Do you want to know the franchises ahead of time, or do you want to just pick a number and go for it at random?
I just pick a number because then you don't have your hopes up. Yeah, just better just go random because then it's easier to stick with it because you'll get mad. Like, oh, I didn't want that one.
Wait, what are we fighting real quick?
You guys, I'm going to give you guys 2 random franchises that have both had mixed varying degrees of success, and you guys are going to have to fight which one is the best franchise.
Okay.
Fair
enough.
So we're fighting mediocre from mediocre to best. Cool.
Because Evan is first on this question, Evan, go ahead. You can pick a number from 1 through 6, and the number you get is the franchise you're stuck with. Go ahead and pick 1 through 6.
5.
All right, and the one that you are stuck with is the original X-Men franchise. Now, this is including X-Men 1 and 2, as well as X-Men 3 and X-Men Origins Wolverine. You have to argue at some point on all 4 films. You cannot just ignore the bad ones. You have to argue why they're a good part of the franchise as well.
I haven't seen any of them,
Because
so I'm
the
glad I
thing
didn't pick that.
Is you have to accept the bad as well as the good. You have to argue why they make that franchise great. Because I think any of us can argue, you know, like X3, Green. Use them and argue why your franchise is so great over those 2 films. So, Henry, go ahead, pick number 1 through 6, and 5 is off the table.
4.
Henry, no joke.
Oh,
what's going on?
The tension. The tension.
Oh, God.
This is the biggest blue balls in movie fights history.
Especially for me.
Fighting the Star Wars prequels, Henry.
Yeah, I can get that. Hell yeah. I can fight for that.
All right, so surprise fight. Which franchise is better? The original X-Men franchise consisting of the first X-Men to Origins Wolverine, or the Star Wars prequels? Do you guys need a minute to get your thoughts together, or Evan, you want to go straight into it?
I just have one clarification question.
Yeah.
With the prequels, can I use the original trilogy as back, as support, or do I only talk about the prequels? And for him, can he use the animated series and all the comics and the prequels as well?
The surrounding parts of the franchise as support, but if I start to feel your argument is swaying too much towards arguing for something besides your films, I will call it and give the other person the point. The point is you are arguing the prequels, but if it helps your argument to use other films and mix it in together, that's fine, but the argument has to be about the prequels. If the argument starts to sway, the point will go to the other person. And the same thing for you, Evan. You can use the rebooted X-Men films in it. You can use the animated series or the comics, just like Henry. You can use the expanded universe or not the canon around it. The argument starts to sway too much on you supporting something else in the franchise rather than the films that you're arguing for, I will call it and give the point to the other person.
All right, perfect. Clear.
All right, Evan, go ahead and start.
X-Men, the original trilogy. The trilogy that people say actually launched the comic book genre into what it is today. you know, these films actually starting to crank out and come out be superbly excellent. You know, X-Men 1 and 2 theoretically changing comic genre forever, and X3 finding a way to perfectly wrap it up into a bow and make a very well sound trilogy out of it. And then we had X-Men Origins Wolverine. And here's the beautiful part about this film: it starts a storyline between Wolverine and his brother Sabretooth, and it works out really well. And then we also saw the development of Wolverine's character to where he became today, and where it was, and how it all worked out together. It was such a beautiful thing that it did, and that's what I love about it was we just had a really nicely done we had a really nicely done trilogy, and then a really done origin story to top it off with that. X-Men, man, what is well done.
All right, so Henry, go ahead and give your opening.
All right, so with the prequels, I'm just going to start off by saying I want to hit this off right away. Intentionally were a success, and they went uphill. The Phantom Menace, then Attack of the Clones, and then Revenge of the Sith. It just went uphill. The money just kept coming along. So regardless of how bad people said the prequels were, it made the money. So that means people still had faith in the franchise. It didn't make any fans go away. Like, for example, the DCU, how it's failing, how it's, you know, not up to par with people. They bring it down, and the money's not quite there where they would want it to be. Whereas the prequels, it just kept going because the faith was never taken away, because there was always something there enough to keep them around and interested in the trilogy as a whole. You start off with the Phantom Menace, and not only is it the first Star Wars movie we had in, I think it's 18 years. Yeah. No, 16. Yeah, 83 to 99. So 16 years. And that was the first one. So yes, you can say, oh, the hype, you know, that's why, but that doesn't matter because, like I said, it went uphill. So it just kept on going. You have Qui-Gon Jinn, who is an amazing Jedi warrior. He's a great mentor. People were sad to see him go. You have Obi-Wan. You loved Obi-Wan in the original trilogy. So now you see where he came from and his growth. And then you meet a young Anakin. And regardless of what you say of Jake Lloyd's performance, you were, everything was there. Was it executed as well as we'd want it to be? Maybe, maybe not. That's not what we're arguing. The argument is how good overall the prequels were, and everything was there for it to happen. The race, the pod race scene is amazing. It might be a little outdated, but overall the execution was done very well. It was very smart. It was very fun. Phantom Menace, you have Darth Maul, which once again, it was hard to see him go because he did so well. Ray Parks was great in that performance and dialogue. Then you go on to Attack of the Clones. It's more epic in scale. Battles starting at the very end. She's in the battle in the Coliseum. She's actually in there. She's not afraid to fight. So then that shows Leia becomes badass herself because her mother, there's the roots. And then you finish off with the Revenge of the Sith. You have the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin, how it gets stronger. You have the rise of Chancellor Palpatine and just where he ends up becoming. And you just seeing that is just amazing. And then how he's able to influence Anakin to become Vader. Not only did he give him the name and he made the change, he influenced him throughout. And you could say, oh, it was just thrown in at the very end. But no, you got to watch the entire trilogy. You got to analyze it. You got to watch Revenge of the Sith. The scene at the probably about in the middle when they're in the theater and they're talking, you just see that he's just influencing him, and he's just planting the seeds just little by little, and he has patience, and that's what you want from a villain. You want patience. So that was just a great start, and overall from start to finish, the prequels, good as you would want them to be, that's irrelevant because as a whole it did its job, and it didn't erase anything from Star Wars, and it didn't erase the legacy of Star Wars as a whole.
All right, and time starts now.
Okay, Henry, I just did some fact checking on Box Office Mojo. Phantom Menace was the most money making Star Wars movie, by the way, versus Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. So yeah, Phantom Menace out of the prequels made the most money.
I think opening weekend.
No, of the whole thing, it made $1 billion. That was the most out of any of the prequels.
I did the same fact check.
And I'm right.
Well, no, opening weekend where it started, so people still showed up. That's what I meant. Like they showed up.
Okay. All right.
I
just wanted to point that out.
About that. He is, just to fact check it now, he is correct about opening weekend. They did get bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It didn't ruin the franchise because it kept bringing in seats. Because the last one was bad, but I'm still have faith, and I still have faith, and so it just progressively, like I said, it's all about progression. And then Sith is most people's favorite prequel. Then if it still got money and people still saw it, so it ended perfectly. So people still showed up, made the most money opening weekend, and it's most people's favorite of the prequels, and a lot of people's they like it more than Jedi, which isn't part of the original trilogy, and some people even like it more than.
Whoa! Time out! Wait a minute.
I'm not saying me personally. I'm just saying people. That's a fact. People like Revenge of the Sith more than Jedi. It's out there, and that regardless of my opinion and your opinion,
that's a very few, like 2%. That's a very few 2%.
No,
Here's what happens with the prequels. Okay, the issue is they're way too long. Freaking Phantom Menace is 2.5 hours of this one buildup. The story. Can you explain to me the story? It's racist, by the way. It's very racist. It has these Japanese characters who there's no reason for them to be Japanese. Talking about the Trade Federation and whatnot. And it's just a bunch of convoluted politics that don't work. As we've seen in other Star Wars movies, politics should work, but they obviously did not work here. Attack of the Clones is just way too long. Anakin is super annoying in it. Hayden Christensen's performance, he sounds like this, and he's freaking 21 years old. You should not be sounding like that. Him and freaking Padme had no chemistry whatsoever. It was god awful. They had no business doing whatever they needed to do there. And Revenge of the Sith, the turn was this quick. You can't tell me. It should have been obvious whenever the Emperor was laying it down to the fans. It was obvious what Vader was trying to do to Luke. It was not obvious what the Emperor was trying to do to Anakin until the very last second. And then his turn to Vader happened in 5 minutes. 5 minutes we saw Vader and Revenge of the Sith, and we should have saw more. And then the no at the end is known as one of the worst moments in film history, and you cannot tell me that is not. People hate that scene with a passion.
Well, I don't want to harp on the prequels. I want to start going on the X-Men. So what you do with the first one?
Exactly.
No, because I don't. It's part of it's a strategy. You got to go on to yours. So anyway, I need to knock you down. So with the X-Men, it's very dated. The uniforms, the black leotards, it's not appealing. People are gonna want to watch the First Class and Days of Future Past. If you're gonna pick an X-Men movie, like, oh, which one you want to watch? You're gonna pick those. X2 might be people's favorite, but as a whole, you're gonna prequel forward before you watch the original, just because it's more appealing, and the acting is about on par with each other. So that cancels itself out. So now you look at effects, you look at the look of it, the style of it, and it is just Bryan Singer just upgraded his style in Days of Future Past, and Matthew Vaughn brought something just completely new to the table in First Class. So if you ask most people, they're going to watch the original, the prequels of X-Men. You got prequels too. They're going to choose your prequels over the original, whereas mine, they're going to choose the prequels as well as a whole. You ask Star Wars fans, they're going to watch all 7 movies in a row. Instead of yours, they're probably just going to mainly just watch Days of Future Past and First Class and maybe X2, but they're not watching X-Men Wolverine. They're not watching X3. So that means that as a whole, your franchise doesn't work as much as mine, because people are going to watch the prequels 1, 2, and 3, but they're going to just ignore X-Men 3, which Bryan Singer himself ignored because he erased it in Days of Future Past. So that's how. Whereas mine, in the prequels, love it or hate it, everything is still canon. They didn't erase anything. Yours, Days of Future Past, X3 was erased from canon because everything was changed. So bam.
Okay, you're bringing up some contractual issues George Lucas had to sign. You can't make the prequels not canon. That's contract issue. You can't do anything about that. So
okay, but you can't do anything. Your X3 being away because it was so bad.
Hold up.
He also erased X1 and X2 though, so you can't really necessarily make the argument. And people love X1 and X2.
Yeah, as much as that bad in X-Men Wolverine, people pray that X-Men Wolverine would be nice.
Oh wait.
I just want to say whether this is fair or unfair, just because we're short on time and I want to get on to the next match, I'm gonna have to do this. I'm going to have to call it early and give the point to Evan simply because Henry said his movies are bad and you're arguing the best franchise. You cannot call
I didn't say they're no, I didn't say they were bad. I was just saying it's realistic out there. No, I didn't say that. I said it's known that people love it or hate it. That's not the point. as a whole, it works. That's what I said. Because I'm being realistic. There's people out there that don't like it, just like for him. There's people out there that don't like X-Men 3 and X-Men Wolverine. As a whole, though, people are would rather watch the prequels.
The difference is your movies in an argument when you're trying to argue that they're the better franchise. Evan did not down talk X3.
I was being realistic, and I was being he just ignored him. He didn't talk about him at all, and I knocked his down.
That's not true. He didn't address them in his opening argument. Look, controversy aside,
there, but he didn't say why they were good. He didn't say why they were good. He just acknowledged that they were there. He didn't
bring up any origin story in it. It was a perfectly wrapped to the trilogy. I did say that.
Yeah, I mean, but that was, and like I said, I knocked that down instantly and said that was erased. So you can have a perfect. How is it perfectly wrapped if it was erased?
Well, if you really have that much of a problem with it, I'll let the fight finish out because you have 1:18 on the clock, and then you have your closing arguments. I'm just saying, there was a point in the match where you did say they were bad movies.
I didn't say I thought they were bad. I just acknowledged that it is common that it's bad because I knew he was going to use that, so I had to automatically bring it up. That it wasn't done as well, and they were bad. They were still really good, and there was a lot that was working. So as an overall whole, because you said, what is the better franchise? My trilogy, the prequels, or his? And if his is 2 out of 4 are just terrible and nobody likes, mine are, there's advocates for the prequels. And that's what I was saying. Like, there's haters, but there's haters of every movie out there. So I was just acknowledging that was out there. So it's up to you.
Okay. All right.
I wasn't personally knocking him at all. I was just bringing up the fact that I know he was going to, so I wanted to be to it, acknowledge that I already know he's going to use that argument. It's up to you, though. You're the judge.
That was, even though I do remember you saying they were bad, finish the fight out.
Yes.
All right, keep going.
We'll let you guys finish.
All right. So as I was saying,
you guys have a minute left.
Okay, as I was saying, so X-Men Wolverine Origins and X3, those are 2 bad movies that nobody likes. You don't have any advocates for those. Whereas mine, it's people are on the fence, but you're gonna have more people that like the prequels than don't like the prequels, and you have more people that fight for the prequels than fight against them. Whereas X-Men 3 and X-Men Origins Wolverine, nobody's fighting for them at all. Maybe you'll say that Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is good, but he's just that character. But you have Deadpool, they ruined that, and then they erased X3 from canon, so that already knocks it down. And then, like I said, you just saw Emperor Palpatine, and then you said the whole Vader thing, it was a turn. No, it was a build-up throughout. And then you said that they Padme and Anakin had no chemistry. I kind of think that was, in a sense, meant to be, because you had that awkward in that family. No, listen, you had the awkwardness in the family between Luke and Leia and how they kissed, and there was just something there. It was just weird and awkward. That whole family is a little messed up because it's just so close. It's a Skywalker story because there's the only real family that we know within it. So you have to have a little bit awkward. You have to have arc, and it had to build up from the little boy and kind of like a babysitter to a protector to his girl, and then they became married, and then they had children. It's called an arc, and that's why you had that no chemistry.
I'm going to stop you there. Final arguments. One more argument each to convince me why yours is the better franchise.
Okay, here's what it all comes down to. One, just based on the movie and the way it is, all of the prequels are way too long. They take way too much time, and when it's not as long as the story as it should be. 2, the plot is everywhere. Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace, the storytelling on its own is horrible. There's actually no plot to Phantom Menace. It's so hard to tell me, hey, what happens to Phantom Menace? You go to here, to here, to here, to here, to here. There's no story going on. And Attack of the Clones just says, oh, this happened. Oh, they have a really bad relationship. Oh, apparently he went to Camino for some reason, and it didn't actually matter. Things build up in the way how they shouldn't. The final battle people think is horrible just because there's bullets everywhere. It's not very easy to follow. And the Revenge of the Sith, the final 5 minutes, people will argue, is the worst moments in film history. Now let's jump into X-Men real quick. X1 and X2 are known as revolutionaries in the industry. People say that those films revolutionized comic book movies into what they are today. Without those movies, we probably wouldn't have the great films like Captain America: The Winter Soldier, The Dark Knight, things like that. And then X3, it perfectly tied up the trilogy. Oh, you could say, oh yeah, they did it all. But here's the thing: they also reconned X1 and X2 too, along with it. That's just part of the Bryan Singer storytelling. That's whatever. But on a movie, on its own, it wrapped up the trilogy. And then X-Men Origins Wolverine, it was an origin story. We got the feel of what happened to Wolverine. He had a character arcs in that story. With a character like that, it's more so difficult to have a character arcs with him. And they did it pretty decently, and I was fairly happy with it. And that's why X-Men, that beginning part of it, is better than the Star Wars prequels, just because the filmmaking is better.
Okay, all right, going on to me. So when you have X-Men and you ask somebody, oh, let's do an X-Men marathon and a Star Wars prequels marathon. If you did that, people are gonna watch X1 and X2, and more than likely stop. Maybe watch X-Men Origin Wolverine just for Wolverine, but that's it. They're skipping 3. Where if you have the prequels, they're gonna watch the first one because you have Qui-Gon Jinn, you have the rise of Anakin, introducing the character. You have Obi-Wan, his rise of becoming the great Jedi Master. So that's interesting there. You have Darth Maul as a great villain. So you have Phantom Menace, you have Good that you're going to watch. So you're going to watch that one. Then you have Attack of the Clones. You see Padme and Anakin come together, and it's awkward on purpose because you're building an arc for that relationship. And then you have the final battle, the actual Attack of the Clones. You have that final battle. It's real great. You have Jango Fett that you meet, and he's interesting because you have a little backstory on Boba Fett and his coming of a character. So you have Attack of the Clones, you're going to watch it. And then you have Revenge of the Sith, which is people's favorite of the prequels, and it's a lot of people like it more than Jedi, and it's up there on their all-time Star Wars movie because you have the rise of Anakin becoming into Darth Vader. You have Chancellor Palpatine being evil and menacing and inspirational in an evil way, and then you have Obi-Wan just becoming just that master. That opening scene, that chase, and it's just, that's awesome. You have that, and when he's jumping, he's, oh, hey, when he does that, blah, 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 and it's just the banter between them. It's great. The relationship, they've grown. And then you go on to the X-Men movies. You have X1 and X2. They're dated. You watch them just because it's good action scenes. You have the Nightcrawler scene in X2, and you have Wolverine when he goes berserk. But that's really it. People give it credit because it was the start. But like you said earlier in a different fight, the start is not always that important. It's not always that great. You think the Dark Knight and the Batman franchise wouldn't have happened if X didn't? I highly doubt it, because Christopher Nolan is very inspirational on his own, and he's very innovative. So even if X-Men didn't happen, maybe it would have taken longer for the comic book genre to rise, but it still would have happened. So X-Men wasn't as influential as you would have thought. And like I said, 2 out of the 4 movies are just terrible and nobody likes them. Whereas the prequels, it's hit or miss for some people, but the people that like it love all 3. And that's how great overall that franchise is in comparison to X-Men.
Okay.
Did I get back on track? Win or lose? Did you understand where I'm coming from now?
No. I understand where you're coming from now. I do understand it. Okay.
Thank you. Win or lose, I just wanted to get my point. I wanted to end, so you at least didn't get me wrong where I was coming from.
That's fair. No, that's completely fair. I think I'm still gonna have to give the point to Evan. But I definitely do understand your argument, and in that last couple minutes, you did make it a lot closer than it originally was for me, because you did come back and fight what I heard you say originally. The big smackdown that would have done it for me is when we stopped the fight and we had the little conversation about that. Make the point that X3 and Origins are the bad ones. They're so bad they did erase them. That by saying 1 and 2 are generally realized as good films, both said by himself and by you, and they were both erased by Days of Future Past as well. So that's the one that's going to hit it for me. But once again, another real close fight. Evan on this one.
All right, long as it was close.
It definitely was closer. I do understand more what you're trying to say now, but I would still go with Evan on that one. And again, you guys are doing really well. And that one was, considering you had no preparation for that, you guys did really well.
Cool.
Hey, sorry, I have emergency. I'll be like right back. I have Henry give his opening argument. I'll be right there. Sorry.
So with that, we are going to move on to the next fight. Which failed sci-fi film deserves a reboot? And
are we not doing question? Are we not doing the other question instead?
I said before the match I was switching the order.
Okay, I was just making sure that I thought you did the trick question for the sci-fi instead. And
No.
Okay.
There was an extra question in this match that I did not tell you guys about.
Okay, just making sure. All right, keep going. Sorry.
We're still going to do that fight. That's going to come afterwards. But this one
Okay,
is
perfect.
what failed sci-fi film deserves a reboot, and then a part of that is also pitching a little bit how you would go about it. Either way, whether he was here or not, Henry, it is your turn to go first. Go ahead and pitch your film.
So the franchise I'm choosing is a franchise that is based on a video game, and it's very beloved, and it just wasn't done properly because of editing. The director wasn't great. The acting was hit or miss, and the topic is still beloved, as we know from The Walking Dead, that zombies are just it's a fad, or it's just a part of our culture that we love or whatever. But as of right now, it is very important. People love zombies, and I want to reboot the Resident Evil franchise because the editing and the story and everything is just so choppy, and it doesn't come together like you would want. It does a lot of stuff, cancels each other out, and it doesn't do justice to the video game, which people love emphatically. So I want to redo that, and I haven't come up with a director yet that I would love to take over, but so I'll think of that throughout, or a lead. But you just, like I said, the zombie franchise as a whole, people love it. I'm actually pitching that you just make it a solo movie, just one Resident Evil movie, have a beginning, middle, and end, have one main character that either lives or dies, and then just have a director that is just strong. He can do action, he can do horror, he can do sci-fi, he can do a great CGI, blend everything well together, tension, everything. So that's why I want to reboot the Resident Evil franchise, and I'm hoping that Evan comes back real soon.
Yeah, all right. No, that's a good pitch, a good idea. Hopefully Evan does get back here in a minute. This is dead air. This is pretty dead air.
Yeah, especially on live. Hello, everybody. I doubt anybody's watching right now, so that's fine.
And I know exactly who that viewer is, so.
Hey, viewer. Hope we're making you proud.
He'll probably text me telling me whether or not we are.
I mean, this actually is going to benefit me because it gives me time to think of a director and a lead actress.
All right. Evan might be on his way back now.
I'll actually be right back too, but I'll be right back. I'm just grabbing some from my room.
I would really like to apologize for what just happened, everybody. I had a family emergency that I actually needed to tend to. Sorry about that.
You're good, man. I'll fill you in because Henry had to go grab something quickly. Henry just gave his opening argument. He is going to be pitching a reboot of the Resident Evil franchise that is just one film with a complete beginning, middle, end. Go ahead and give your opening statements.
Oh, God. So we're still doing that sci-fi question. There's 5 questions.
Alrighty.
Yeah, there are 5 questions. We discussed that as well.
Oh, shizer. Okay.
What happened? What I missed? What I miss?
Henry had the same Evan had the same revelation that you did, that there's actually 5 questions in this match.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to be arguing that Tron needs a reboot for a few reasons. It's a beautiful thing to look at. It has potential to be a very good family drama, but it just wasn't executed well. And it just has potential to be a very financially successful movie, no matter what, because of the beautiful lights, because of the fantastic story that came out of it, and because of the family drama. People can relate to those kinds of things. That's why Tron needs to be rebooted, because I feel like it's a story that should and can be told extremely well.
Right. So before you guys get into one more fight, and I want to dedicate some time to that one. And then we also have a speed round after that. I'm going to shorten this match to a 3-minute argument and then final statements. So, Henry, you don't have to worry about coming up with the whole cast and director and all that. Just sell me on your concepts. Sell me on your concepts and sell me why they deserve to be rebooted. 3 minutes starts now.
All right. So actually, I did come up with a lead and a director, and I'm choosing my director to be Guillermo del Toro, and I'm choosing my lead to be Jessica Chastain. And I'm choosing that because they have already worked together in Crimson Peak, so they already have that chemistry there. So when he'll have the confidence in making her the lead. And I'm choosing Guillermo del Toro because he's shown that he can do dark and creepy. He's shown that he can do action in Pacific Rim, dark and creepy in Pan's Labyrinth. He's shown that he can also do the action in the Hellboy franchise. So I'm deciding to make this a solo movie, but if he for some reason was to make it a franchise, he's shown that he can do it with the Hellboy movies and the setup for Pacific Rim. And then Pan's Labyrinth, he's shown that he can do a solo, to have a beginning, middle, end with great characters, great creepiness, great monsters. So he's shown that he can do that all, and he's shown that he can do the effects. So Guillermo del Toro will helm the Resident Evil franchise. It'll have Jessica Chastain. There'll be the outbreak of the virus. It'll get right to it in the first 10, 15 minutes. It'll show how it all came down. And the fault with the zombie problem now is that they're doing too much. For example, the Resident Evil movies, it didn't need to be 7 films long, and they just didn't know how to make it in. The Walking Dead, it doesn't need to be as long as it is now, and they're still going. It's great, people love it, and they're still watching it because zombies are beloved, but they just don't know how to make it end because they're not great storytellers. Guillermo del Toro has proved that he can do a solo film, and he proved that even if he does do a franchise, he can make it short and simple with Hellboy 1 and 2 and Pacific Rim. I don't know the original setup, but maybe 3 at the most. So he's shown that he can do it tight, sweet, and he has the chemistry with Jessica Chastain as his lead. And she's shown that she can do action and creepy in Crimson Peak and Zero Dark 30. Sorry.
Just because we're shortening this fight, I want to let Evan get a little bit in before final arguments. So,
Okay, here's the thing. James Gunn is going to be directing this strong trilogy, because if there's 3 things that James Gunn knows, it's score, it's family drama, and it is flashy lights. You can't get any more better with James Gunn directing this. And then here's the thing with Resident Evil, right? It's a franchise that's already been dug to the ground, dug as deep as it can get. And then your director, Guillermo del Toro, you just mentioned his last 2 movies. Crimson Peak, no one likes that movie. And it had a fantastic cast in it. But not many people likes that movie. If you were to look up the Rotten Tomatoes of it right now, Crimson Peak, it just was not that good. And then Pacific Rim
I'll
is very
look it up, focus on the argument.
I am. And then Pacific Rim was very divisive too. People just found that movie to be boring with just a bunch of robots. There's more to Resident Evil than that. There should be drama that's being involved, but he's such a visionary director. People just didn't necessarily seem to enjoy those 2 movies. And that's why I think Guillermo del Toro isn't necessarily the right decision if you were to even do a Resident Evil movie. Resident Evil is already dug to the ground. We need something that can be new and inventive, and Tron can do that with the new technologies that they can involve with it. That's why Tron is easily the better choice.
Before we go
into closing statements.
Yeah, before we go into closing, what's the Rotten Tomatoes for Crimson Peak? Since
it's 71. 71.
Exactly. So it's fresh. It's fresh. It's fresh. So people like it. As soon as you said that, I knew that was
55% audience. Yikes.
Hey, that's still above. That's still higher than less. So. All right,
go ahead, guys. Henry, final statements. Make this a little quicker so we can move on to that last fight, but go ahead and get what you need out.
All right. So you say that Guillermo, his last movie, Crimson Peak, wasn't as loved. It's because of the marketing. They market it as a horror, as a straight up horror movie, and it's more of a psychological thriller. So that's just going to be fixed. Pan's Labyrinth has shown that he can do the psychological thriller, and that he can evolve characters, and he can get you beloved in a villain like Captain Vidal. In the Hellboy franchise, he shows that it's kind of like an anti-hero with Hellboy, that he's a devil, he's whatever. So he showed that you can love him. He brings out the great actors. You have Ron Perlman as Hellboy. You have all the actors in Pan's Labyrinth, which I don't know their names, that's fine. And then you have Jessica Chastain, Tom Hiddleston, Charlie Hunnam, and Crimson Peak. You have Charlie Day, Charlie Hunnam, Idris Elba in Pacific Rim. So he can bring the cast. He's gonna bring it. And you say that zombies have been dug in the dirt, but it hasn't. The Resident Evil franchise was, because it wasn't handled properly by the people. So you get Guillermo del Toro. He's trusted. He's going to do it right. Jessica Chastain as the lead, shown that she can do action. She's shown that she can be menacing and creepy. And then zombies, it's still a thing. People are still tuning in for The Walking Dead because it's still beloved. And people love Shaun of the Dead. It's satirical. So it's at Dawn of the Dead, Zack Snyder's. Most people hate Zack Snyder, but they still like Dawn of the Dead because zombies are a thing and people love it. So do it right, and it'll be perfect. One and done.
All right, Evan, final statement.
Do it right. They've tried this thing like 6 times and they can't even seem to get it right.
The same franchise, though. It's over.
So exactly, it's
That's the
same
point. That's the
franchise,
point of a
and now-
reboot.
Henry,
And
let
right,
him get him.
Right now you're trying to reboot something that's been tried 6 different times. I still don't see a way how it's going to work.
It's one franchise, and you can't argue that it's one franchise. It's been done once with 6 movies. I just want that argument to be not. I want that to be clear.
I understand your point, but it's still a different movie every time. But now. And now here's where this argument builds. Tron, it can be new and inventive. Resident Evil, it's just you're gonna keep seeing zombies on the screen. Tron is something new. It hasn't worked the other past 2 times because it hasn't had the right people on it. But if you get James Gunn on a property like this, he knows how to work family dramas. People love Guardians of the Galaxy 2 because it's a family drama. People love the score, the soundtracks of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. That's what Tron was focused on and failed just minorly. But if you have James Gunn on it, he could really expand on that. And then the lights and the coloring of the movie, the way how the cinematography works, that's why people want to see more Tron, and James Gunn will perfectly be able to do that. The issue with Resident Evil is it's just people aren't asking for it. People aren't asking for a zombie movie. People want to see Tron, something new and inventive. Thank you.
Can I add one last sentence just because I didn't have enough time in my closing. I didn't talk about his. Just one sentence.
All right, I'll allow the one sentence, but Evan does get one sentence back.
Okay, so you say people don't care about Resident Evil, but like I said, people are still tuning in for The Walking Dead, and people love zombies, so that rebuttal rebutes that. But now, as far as Tron, nobody's asking for Tron. I've never heard of that. People like innovative ideas, but Tron specifically, no. Zombies specifically, yes.
And Evan, you get 1 point back.
Yeah. People are asking for The Walking Dead because it's a well-told story. People know The Walking Dead is one of the best TV series of all time. People aren't asking for Tron at the moment because it hasn't been done well. But Tron is so new and inventive with things kind of like that. That's why people, once you release that first amazing trailer, people would love it.
Okay, and there's an early insight into what the speed round will look like. All right. So I think you guys, obviously this was a shortened round, so it was harder to get everything out. I think you guys both did a good job on pitching why your directors would fit the story. I'm going to side with Henry on this one, just because Henry did bring up multiple aspects of the filmography of Guillermo del Toro and why it would help fit in a hypothetical Resident Evil reboot. Whereas Evan, I apologize, but I didn't hear you actually mention any of James Gunn's films. And in all the ones you were talking about, it just kind of sounded like Guardians of the Galaxy, another version of that, just with Tron. So with that, I am going to give Henry the point, and so it is 2-2 going into the last round.
Knuckle touch.
The last one before the speed round, right?
The speed round. All right, so with this round...
One pause. I got to get my charger. I'll be right back. Right back.
So this is the 5th round. Round. So this question is greatest moment in Star Wars history. You guys have each picked your moments, and you're going to have to argue why they are the best in Star Wars history. Now.
Short and sweet, still hard to do. Go ahead.
All right.
Sorry.
All right. So the way we're going to start this round, I just want you guys, we're not going to talk about them, but I just want you guys to give what your moment is.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead and go first.
Mine is the moment where he goes, where you see Han Solo talking to Princess Leia, where she goes, "I love you," and he goes, "I know."
All right, and then Henry, go ahead and give us your moment.
My moment is it's very, very new, and it's the Darth Vader hallway scene at the end of Rogue One.
All right, and so I'll be back in just a second.
2-2. I like this, Evan. This is a lot of fun.
I do too.
I had my back against the wall with the prequels against X-Men, so I tried my hardest.
Yeah. I felt bad. I'm like, oh, this poor guy has the prequels. That sucks.
I think I fought pretty hard for him though, given especially you had X-Men.
did.
It's not like it was a bad franchise against a bad franchise. It was bad versus good, and I just had to.
That was an uphill climb.
And Wolverine, and then I just had to. People do love the prequels, but yeah, like it's too 50-50 to be talking about in comparison to X-Men.
I don't know how many people like Revenge of the Sith over Return of the Jedi, other than Chris Stillman.
There's a lot of people, dude. I promise you. Like I see a lot of lists, and they do it, and it's
they
more,
must be on some kind of drugs.
Well, I know personally, Jedi is my second favorite. It's barely behind
Yeah.
Empire. Like I love Jedi, so I'm just saying that wasn't personal, but yeah, it's out there.
You guys are talking about the love of Star Wars.
We were just talking about that round, how that was probably the closest one that was an uphill battle for me. That was only close because I'm so awesome.
Okay, Chris.
All right, you guys are.
Don't get in trouble.
You guys
Evan.
are having fun because you're not about to. This is a trick question. You are arguing why your moment is the worst moment in Star Wars history.
That's fine by me.
Fine by me.
I can BS this, even though I want to talk how awesome it is, but that's fine.
All right. So what I'm going to do is, again, just because I'm really running short on time, but I do want to finish this. 5 minutes. No beginning, no closing. I want straight argument. You can cut each other off. You can fight dirty. Do it however you want. You have 5 minutes to sell me why your moment is the worst moment in Star Wars history.
I could have sworn when I saw that Rogue One scene, I peed myself a little bit because I saw Darth Vader tear Rebels apart. That was freaking fantastic. And then we go in to see Empire Strikes Back. Oh, I love you. Oh, I know. Like, that's some poo-poo caca. No one wants to see that love relationship between Luke and Han. Luke kissed Leia beforehand. How can she say that she loves Han if she kissed Luke earlier? That's a bunch of baloney. You know it is. George Lucas loves incest, and it just ruins. So it just ruins everything. The second that she says "I love you" to Han, like it just drops the whole dramedy of the whole thing. It just makes it satire. It's hilarious.
All right, yeah.
So,
all right, you say Darth Vader just started ripping through Rebels, yeah, but that, like you said, in Revenge of the Sith, the last memory you have of Darth Vader is no, and then you jump straight to that. Plus, even before that, don't choke on your aspirations. Oh my God! Like, you think one
that's not that moment though. That moment was cool. That moment is totally different than that.
Yeah, but that already took it away. Like, if you have somebody who does something terribly dumb and then he tries to redeem himself, yeah, he may have brought himself up, but it's still not the greatest moment in Star Wars history just because it was this much, because he brought himself down. Plus, the last thing you remember of Darth Vader as a whole was no, and the last time you saw him before that was Return of the Jedi, where he became a sissy and he took away from the light side and he turned on the Emperor.
The last time we ever saw
Darth
Leia do anything romantic before she said, "I love you" to Han was kiss Luke. The last time she said anything romantic, she kissed Luke, the man that she obviously didn't love. That moment
but the most inspirational couple in history of cinema is Han and Leia. So that "I love you, I know," that shows that she's compassionate, she's loving to his big bad side, because all girls love a bad boy, and then Han solidifies that he's a bad boy, and he also shows that that's his character. That Han loves her because just in the beginning, you want to kiss me, brought it up, and then they kissed, and then CPO interrupted, and he was pissed because he broke up that kiss. So he loves her. It's just that's part of his persona. He had to keep up the act, and that's what's so beautiful about it, because he's a rebel, he's his own thing, and he's becoming general, and he's becoming captain. He's everything that you love to be. So he has to keep up that bad boy persona. He wanted to say "I love you" back.
That's why he can't drop his ego for love. If you can't drop your ego for love, then who are you? Not even a human being. If you can't drop your ego for love.
But you say you can't drop his ego for love. But what did happen in Return of the Jedi? She came and saved him out of the carbonite because she didn't fall for it for a minute. She knew that he meant it back, and he just couldn't say it because people were watching. That's all it is. It is so beautiful.
Because people were watching.
If you have a girl tell you that she loves you, and you tell her "I know," she's not coming to save you out of carbonite. But that's how important that relationship is, and that's how awesome Princess Leia and Captain Han
Exactly,
Solo.
they're twisted people. They're twisted
it's beautiful.
people.
It's beautiful. They're right
And
here.
here's the
That's
thing.
what it is.
That Vader scene is so beautiful for one reason. First, it starts. Then you see a lightsaber light up. And then you see him just tearing down rebels. Do you know how long Star Wars fans have been waiting for that moment? To actually see Vader go berserk?
10 seconds? 10,
No.
10, 15 seconds? That's not enough. That's a tease. That is a tease.
That's all that Vader
No.
needs. That's all that Vader needs out of that.
Nope.
Vader
Oh,
only
all
needs
right.
15 seconds to take down those rebels.
Okay.
Only
Are
15
you telling me?
seconds.
Are you telling me if you see a teaser for a trailer that that's it? I'm in for the movie. No, you're not in for the ride. If you didn't know anything about Darth Vader except for that, you're like, oh, this guy's just a villain. He's just evil. But you don't know the backstory. You don't because it
But that's
wrote
part of
on
the
that at all. So that
story.
scene,
It's
no,
knowing
he's
that.
just some big bad, and that could have been anybody. That could have been the Joker. That could have been Wolverine. That could have been anybody. Just killing people. That could have been Hannibal Lecter. That's any villain. That's so cliche. It's so boring. Yeah, he murdered people and it was cool with a red lightsaber, but that's all. He couldn't even turn his head. It's 2016 when this movie came out, and he still was stiff and everything. He's doing this, and that's it.
Exactly.
That's,
follow the
they
continuity.
overused the
It was
force. They
before New
overused the
Hope.
force because he couldn't even use his body in his suit because it's 2016 and
He
they
doesn't
still
need to.
couldn't make the
He
suits
doesn't
where he's
need to.
movable.
That, that's not the point. You have to keep the continuity. Now you're trying to break continuity in Star Wars. What are you doing?
No.
What are you doing?
No, if you're breaking continuity, then he wouldn't have been doing he wouldn't have forced people up into the ceiling. He would have been stabbing people because that's not what happened in A New Hope. So if you're talking about the continuity, then they went overboard already as is. So if you're going to already break the continuity, you either go above and beyond or you don't do it at all.
He knows he's interrogating his daughter, so he has to be a different type of Vader. He knows what's going on. The whole thing is he was so on board to get those the Death Star.
You knew he was interrogating his daughter. He
knew.
didn't even know Luke was his son until later on. So I don't even want to hear
Yes,
that.
he did.
No, not
He
right
saw
away.
it coming.
Not right away.
He felt it in the Force. He was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, but he didn't know Leia right away. I don't even think he knew he
I
had
think
twins.
he did. I don't think he said it because
Nope.
here's the thing. Whenever
didn't
you
even
feel something
know.
like
It was-
that. But let's talk about the moment. We saw somebody whack a bunch of people, and if you think that is the worst moment in Star Wars history, then I feel bad that you don't like.
That's so
on it.
cliche. That's so cliche.
Time. Whoa!
Time.
Good fight, Henry. I'm so sorry I yelled at you.
That was fucking savage. That was awesome. I'm so glad I decided to do that.
I know.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Incest? Come on, man. Don't come and talk about incest.
It happens.
All right.
I know.
All right. That was super, super close. Thinking about it, thinking back on that fight, though, I think what won it for me it had to be the fact that he couldn't drop his persona even for love. And in a way, if you look at it from a certain angle, that can ruin the scene, because when you're supposed to set up that these two characters love each other, it can come off that she loves him and he's like, yeah, you're my side chick. Look at it.
Yes.
So,
What's so sad is I love that scene.
as sacrilegious as it is, Star Wars fans, Evan is going to get the point. And it's another, that was one of the best fights I think I've ever seen. You two just went at it.
We need to clip that out and send that to Screen Junkies and show them that we can hang.
That was a good fight. That was the one line that stuck with me where it's like, this is a scene where, he could die with the situation he's being put into. And here this, really Leia is a hard ass as well in the film, and she's putting her heart out to him, and he's just like, yeah, I know. And then just, goes off to get frozen.
I know, it was confirmed. He's like, I don't need any.
I think we can.
I think we
no
all can
matter
agree it's a fantastic moment.
his bullshit fights ever, but
All right,
we can all agree. They're both amazing scenes. I will tell you that Darth Vader scene, those things I've ever seen in cinema. Working at a movie theater, I will tell you this: when that movie was out and I was ushering and cleaning theaters, I would literally work quicker than I ever had in my entire life just so I could run into a Star Wars theater and just watch that scene. I've seen Rogue One twice. I've seen that scene about 12 times.
That's why I picked it for best originally.
But hey, man, this is movie fights. You guys got to think on your head. And you guys, both fights today where I surprised you with something, you guys did amazing. Overall, I think no matter who wins this match in the end, I think people are going to agree that this was a really fun fight. You guys know your shit.
Yeah.
To the speed round, we have 3 speed round questions planned out. Is currently leading 3-2. So the disadvantage is, Henry, you will have to sweep these in order to win. And you will have to, if you lose the first one, you will have to at least hit 2 of them to tie it up.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so here is the first speed round question. Wonder Woman changed the superhero movie genre.
Yes. Henry, yes.
Okay, Henry says yes, so Evan, you're going to be arguing for no.
How much time do we have just to clear? What are we doing as far as time?
Isn't it 2010?
What are we doing as far as time?
It'll be 2010. It's going to be 20, 10, 10. Henry, because you spoke first, you can go ahead and argue. Time starts now.
All right, so Wonder Woman's going to change the comic book genre because A, it shows that a woman can be powerful and in the lead, and B, it shows that you can do an origin story right. People are sick of origin stories, but people love the Wonder Woman origin story because if you do it right and you do it justice, it can work. And then B, it shows that you can do a standalone film. You don't always have to have it come together as a whole and make the plot so convoluted.
Evan, time starts when you start speaking.
Okay, I don't think it's going to change the superhero genre for a few reasons. One, it's just like any other origin story. It really is. It's a person who telling story. Chris Pine out-acts her, which is really sad because we need a strong female lead. But because Chris Pine out-acts her, I don't think it's going to change that much. And it felt like another Marvel movie per se, even though CC did feel like another Marvel movie. So it's not going to necessarily change anything like either the Avengers or the Dark Knight did. It's not that revolutionary.
Time. All right.
Someone who watched this
Henry,
movie,
10 seconds starts when you start speaking.
All right, so like I said, it has a strong woman, so it shows that you can bring a character into the lead, just like they didn't have faith in the Black Widow, and then they haven't had faith in the Harley Quinn, all that the side stuff. So you bring Wonder Woman is powerful, it's good influence for women.
Evan, when you start speaking.
See, it would be a good influence for a woman if Chris Pine didn't out-act her. That's the reason it just feels like another Marvel film. It's not revolutionary because it didn't feel different. The Dark Knight and the Avengers did feel different. That's the issue here. It did not feel different compared to like a normal comic book hero movie.
Fine.
That's
You were both stuck on the same argument for both of your halves, whereas Henry was saying she's a strong female character, she's a good role model. And Henry, you haven't seen the movie yet, right?
Oh
no. Okay, I think the fact that Evan has seen it, it did give him just a little bit of an advantage over you because he was able to combat that. In his opinion, Chris Pine did out-act Gal Gadot, and he is better in the film than her, and that doesn't necessarily make Wonder Woman a stand-up character. So you guys were going back and forth on that point for the entirety of the fight. What did win it for me, though, is the very last thing that Evan said, where it's in the movie, but it's if it feels like a Marvel film and it doesn't feel different, the films that do stand out and make an impact on the comic book genre, whether it be The Dark Knight or The Avengers or Captain America Winter Soldier or Logan or Deadpool, they all have a different feeling and a different tone. And Evan is not the first person that I've heard say that. So the fact that he did bring that point into this fight is why I'm going to give him the point for this round.
Hey, Henry, you had me nervous. You had me legitimately nervous. I was like, oh, God.
Now, Evan, because you have seen the film, removing the fact that you were just in a fight, do you think it will change the genre? Yes or no? I just want to know, because you're the only one of us who's seen it.
It's really dependent. I think it's going to have a lot more female influence per se, but I don't think it's going to change the genre as in types of movies that we're going to see. I think we're going to see a lot more female involvement. I don't know about female-led movies because we already have Captain Marvel and things like that coming out.
All right, I didn't hear your answer, but the audience did, so that's good enough for me.
All right.
So we are going to go ahead. So right now it is 4-2, so that means, Henry, you have to bring it on this next fight or it does end in a victory for Evan. Here we go. Round question is, it's another yes or no question. Does Logan have Oscar chances?
No.
Okay, so Henry's going to go with no, and Evan is going to say yes. Henry, once again, you did speak first, so you're going to go ahead, and let me just get 20 seconds up on the clock. All right, time starts when you begin speaking.
Okay, so when we said does it have Oscar chance, I just think as a whole, and that's a kind of an ambiguous question. So yeah, it could win some technical stuff. So I'm gonna try and take that out because I think we're talking about like Best Picture and acting. And The Dark Knight, like you said, is the most revolutionary movie we've seen in a while, and that made it go from 5 to 10, and it still didn't even make it. And then Heath Ledger's Joker got nominated. We're just because he died. Did a lot of lagging there, so it kind of messed me up. But I'm sorry. I hope I got enough for you.
All right. Sorry.
You can put 15 minutes on my clock.
Start.
I don't have it. No, put 15 seconds, just to be fair.
Put 15? Okay. Time.
One. Okay, Logan, here's the thing with Logan. It has a chance to get nominated for Best Screenplay because Deadpool had that chance. It has a chance for Best Supporting Actor because Patrick Stewart knocked it completely out of the park. It has a chance for so many different things because Best Picture, Best Story. It was a Western, Best Score. It has so many chances for so many different things because it's that well done. Woo! Hi. Sorry, excuse my craziness. I just got to keep rolling.
So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and each give you guys another 15 seconds. We'll do 15 and 15 because you only got 15 each in the first round.
That's
so
right.
Henry, you have 15 seconds to combat. And yeah, just to clarify the argument a bit, we will stick to the major awards because I think, of course, technical awards, you can always put it in there for that. But we're sticking to the major awards. Why does Logan
I said all major awards, right? Score.
No, yeah.
You were hitting the major awards, but I'm just going to clarify it for Henry, which is why I'm giving the 15 seconds.
Okay.
Henry, why does Logan not have a shot at hitting the major awards? 15 seconds when you start speaking.
Okay, yes, Logan has a Western feel, but it was pretty formulaic. It was like a road trip movie. It had comedy. It overused, did it. You had Logan. He died. People, the Oscar people aren't even really going to watch it. Yeah, a lot of the fans love it, but they're just not even going to watch it. He did great, but they're not going to give him acting and score. It's kind of just all that stuff. It's basic.
All right, and Evan, 15 when you begin speaking.
Okay, so it became very apparent that the Oscar people did watch Deadpool, and they have a better chance of watching Logan because it looks more like an Oscar movie, and has a chance for getting written for Best Screenplay because it's a very well tight told story, and Patrick Stewart and Logan have both a chance of getting support for Best Nominated Actor because they showed a variety of acting there, which is very hard to do in both characters. I was very impressed. Logan will get time. It has a shot of getting nominated for an Oscar. Woo! Shake hands.
That was a really, really good fight. It was really close. Here's the thing I was looking for. I have to give the point to Evan, which means Evan does get the victory. Here's the thing I was looking for. Henry, here's the thing in your argument. There was one strong argument that you could have gone for, which is actually why my answer to the question would be no. The strong answer is its release date. It was released so early in the year that they may not even be thinking about it by the time the Oscars come around, unless Fox really puts in the campaign push. I
didn't want to use that because Deadpool was released early and it was talked about, so I didn't want to use that because then that would have been refuted really instantly. So I don't think that's a fair point to use because that doesn't make any sense. So like I said, Deadpool was talked about and that was more of a comedy than a comic book movie, whereas this is a Western. So I think the release date is irrelevant.
The reason that I would have used it as an argument personally, though, is because Deadpool was talked about, but we're not talking about does it have a shot of being talked about for a nomination. We're talking about does it have a shot at getting it. And I personally believe that Deadpool should have gotten a screenplay nomination, but it did not get it, no matter how much it was talked about.
I don't know. That ruling seems a little more biased. That you just because I didn't bring up a point that you thought was important.
And also, Evan did. Besides that, Evan did individually list out different categories and give reasons, and I didn't hear you necessarily combat the individual categories. You were talking about the movie more as a whole, but with the Oscars,
I said the movie, the acting, like they're not going to talk about it. I compared it to the Joker. that the only reason that they gave it to him is because he died. I said that The Dark Knight, yeah, they brought it from 5 to 10, but it was just revolutionary. And Logan is more formulaic. It's more basic. So they're not going to go for Best Picture for that. And then same thing with screenplay. It's basic. It's a basic road trip movie. It's more and did the F word and all that points.
I still think Evan's argument was stronger, and I did say I'd give him the point. I'm going to stick to it. Evan does get the point, which means Evan is the winner.
And with that, this means this will make Chris stay happy. My ending song.
Acid rapper, soccer, hacky, sacker, cocky.
That's it. Sorry, I had to. Just make Chris stay happy. Good game, Henry. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Yep.
All right. So with that, guys, because I have to go get ready to leave. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and do outros. I do want to say both of you guys did really well today. Henry, it's nothing personal. Things were really, really close. I just think in the final argument, he did edge you out a little bit. It was a really good fight, and I think whether it's in a normal fight or in one of these again, you do have a really good shot at this because you were really good.
Henry, if you were to win, I wouldn't have been mad because you were that close to me. I was like, well,
It really was. Most of the fights, it really was just a split decision of there was one thing that was said that stuck out to me, and that's my gut, and that's what I have to go with. You know, but again, you guys were both really good. You definitely were both prepared. You knew your stuff. You brought the fight. Evan does win on a score of 5-2. Thank you guys for both playing. Thank you for everyone who watches. Henry, we'll start with you. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Dial M for Movies on YouTube. I have a movie trivia league that is secluded to 16 person per season, but it is 3 months long, and everyone gets 4 matches at minimum. So you have movie trivia, and it's a lot of fun, and it's real close because everyone's going to get 4. So people have time to improve, and it's based on scores. So you always fight your hearts out, and it's a lot of fun.
I also want to say both me and Evan are a part of that, and it is a lot of fun.
Appreciate that.
All right, and do you have any social media as well people can follow you on?
Same thing, Dial M for Movies on Twitter, 4 for the 4, like number 4 for the 4, and then Henry Confidential on YouTube, like it. And you can join the There if you want to at least get the inside information on what we do. All
right, and Evan, go ahead and plug yourself. Where can people find you?
You guys can find me on the Take 3 Productions YouTube channel. We're cranking out some good stuff for you guys. Really good entertainment. You guys can find me at EDEGRAFF11 on Twitter. I tweet about politics, so you can get over it. And yeah, that's me.
All right, and once again, shout out to Chris. Thank you for allowing me to host this match today. It was a lot of fun. I hope to do it again in the future because this was actually a lot of fun. You guys can find me here on this channel, appearing in and out of some of the different shows. Obviously, you guys can find me on Henry's channel, appearing in his trivia battles. You can find me on Evan's channel, appearing in his trivia battles, because I just like hopping on other people's shit. I can't make my own.
Aaron's on. Aaron's in the tournament. That's something big. Check out the ranking special.
Congrats.
He's in a very good spot.
Congrats.
All right, and you guys can find
I'm
me
0-1. I had shit questions.
You guys can find me while we're talking about it. Fuck Bridesmaids. You guys can find me on Instagram at Aaron T. Knoll. That is going to do it for today. And just the last thing, I wanted to call this out. If you guys watch the weekly podcast that Chris does, he called me out and said that he wanted to do I take Tom Cruise, he does Dwayne Johnson. He wants to do a movie fight on that. I'm just going to go ahead and say I formally accept, and I look you in that. Thank you guys for watching.
Tom Cruise.
Oh.